Hey, good evening, everybody. How y'all doing tonight? This is David. I'm simultaneously um, Facebook Live and YouTube Live. I'm going to talk about all the stuff I've been watching for the last week. I've talked to um, people in the field, um, especially regarding the lawsuit in Minnesota, with the courts holding the nurses for at least 3 days before they could take their job, which was kind of stupid. But it all goes back to another podcast I did on the 14th of November in my YouTube collection. It's about nursing home and long-term care. Still don't get the part about staffing. And in that article from 1110 and Knight's Long-Term Care News, they talked about getting the FTC involved. My understanding is now there's legislation in a couple of states, Pennsylvania, and I can't remember where the other one is, that's going to limit nurses' pay. They're going to try to cap nurses' pay in the middle of a shortage to save a hospital. Sounds good and all, in theory, but it's not. You are about to screw up everything. When you start talking about capping nurses' pay, nurses tend to get angry. And that's moot. Anybody, if a government agency told you that we're fixing to cap your pay, then you're probably going to have either a fight on your hands, or B, you're going to have a horrendous staffing issue, more than you've got now. I'm betting the latter. I know that it's short right now. I get that point. I'm benefiting from it. Everybody else is benefiting from it. Even the facilities claiming they're spending so much on agency. But, you know, the first thing you need to do is I would hit the staff you got and ask them, why are so many people leaving and going to agency? But you don't want to hear that, because the truth tends to hurt. I get that point. Nobody wants to face their own demons. Nobody wants to sit and listen to what your overhead costs are. I don't really care about knowing it, although I've been on the administration side in long-term care facilities and rehab facilities. I know what the overhead is. I get the point. Your expenditures and your overhead, you got to balance the sheets. In my experience, the sheets were balanced before you started it. Because prime example, we get so much money per day in long-term care per resident for rehab and nursing care, and you get 21 days at 100% pay rate. Let's say they've got all the diagnosis to meet the maximum amount, 750 a day for 21 days. So that doesn't seem like a lot. But let's say you average census every month at 30. Let's not even do that. Let's do it at 14, 15, 20. If you're averaging $14,000 to $18,000 a day for your long-term care residents in the facility, and you're paying an RN to come in there, and you're paying them, let's say, $4,000, $5,000 a week, that would be kind of dumb, wouldn't it? When all you have to do is increase the pay in your building you've got, they probably would stay and get you through it. But you're not being smart about it. You're still trying to make that bottom line and all you CEO bonuses. I had the privilege this week, when you've been nursing long as I have and you traveled long as I did, you make friends all over the country. I had a friend that knew one of the nurses in the facilities that was in the lawsuit last week. They knew the jobs were opening at Ascension. That this is a Theta Care Ascension case, if anybody paid attention. And the judge said, oh no, they got to be held because it's going to interfere with patient care in our region. Didn't matter before. Didn't matter when the other facility didn't have it. But it all of a sudden mattered when they were all going next door. I get the competition part. Competition, it's free market society. That's how it works. You had a nurse that came to Theta Care and said, okay, this is what they offered me. If you'll match it, I'll stay. Oh no, there's not going to be any matches. So what did you do? You sued them to stay? How well did that work out? And other people is listening to this, and I get people. I've got people want me to take down videos now. I'm not doing it. I'm not. I won't. I refuse to. Now they can take me down. I don't care. There's plenty of other platforms out there. Probably next week I'll be on some new platforms. A couple that I'm looking at I really like. I'm already on Locals. So if you'll find me on Locals, it's Conservatarians. That's my page there. I'll be going to another site like YouTube. It's got a little green triangle on it. I'm just waiting for the okay back on it. But that's where I'm headed. So I won't be probably on either format much longer, because I won't take down the videos. I don't. You can go after me. I don't care. It's too long. I see all these posts on these Facebook pages where there's nursing involved, and we've got 60 and 70,000, 80,000 people on these pages, and all I do is see people bitch about it. I don't see any of them take a stand about it. Where they are now, they may be. I just don't see it. If you're watching on Facebook, I think about 5 people's watching now. I know most of y'all. Y'all got any questions? Pop them to me, because I've been doing a lot of reading on this. I'm fixing to start talking about an article talking about staffing, and I'm fixing to give y'all some real numbers. And this was back in November. These numbers are the most recent numbers I could find. It's late. It's too late. Now you're wanting to cap it off. In the benefits news article that I found, written by Paola Peralta, it's from November the 18th, and those were the newest numbers that they had. By the end of this year, we're looking at 500,000 nurses leaving the bedside. Now, I don't know if anybody knows what that means or cares what that means, but that means you'll go into a hospital, you may not have a nurse. You may be getting a tech, or you may be getting a greenhorn. Not saying greenhorns ain't good, because they are. Trust me, I was a greenhorn one time. I wasn't that great. But what do you do in an emergency room situation when every second counts and you've got greenhorns everywhere? Not saying they can't do it. They can do it. But sometimes they want to wait and ask and wait for an order. And sometimes you don't get that choice. Prime example. I'll start referring to my past here. I worked pediatric clinic out west. We had a kid coming through the door. It was me and another nurse in the clinic. That was it. The doctors had gone to lunch. Everybody was in displaced. They were in their offices. Some of those doctors' offices was on the other side of our building. The kid was coming down the hallway. We could literally see his nose and his lips swelling up. So we snatched the little boy up and slung him into the treatment room, and we popped him with some epi, and we did the allergic reaction protocol. When we felt safe and one of us could leave the room, we did. One of us went and called the doctor. Of course, there was a ton of people back there when we did that. I mean, of course, you holler help or code, or I should have just said the word quiet for lunch, and I'd have had plenty of business. That's a nursing joke. For the last, say, I've been doing this since '93. Different formats, different phases of the healthcare field. Like I said, I was in administration out west. I was a CMS liaison. I've worked for the federal government, worked for tribal governments. I've worked for long-term care, and all the states I've ever been in, I like my old people. And I like the peds that I did for 5 years. Wouldn't do it again, but it's an invaluable experience. But now at this point, I don't know what to do. Nursing ain't like it used to be. You've got either old fogies like me that go in and gonna do their job and just go in there and get it done and get out and go home. And then on the flip side of that, you got your prima donna nurses that come in there and they're only nurses for the sake of having the title. Well, one thing about this pandemic, it weeded all of them out real fast. And we think any of these generations after Gen X is going to be any better. They're only going to be as good as the people you got left to train them. And if all of the seasoned nurses are going and leaving and quitting, then what are you going to have? A bunch of Karens taking care of you? A bunch of nurses looking down at the end of their nose and say, well, because you've got this, you don't need to be doing that. And I'm referring, let's say, smoking. Somebody comes in with a cancer diagnosis, and the first thing you do is tell them to quit smoking. A little late, ain't it? I mean, really, it's a little late. Same thing with the staffing issue. You've sat and you've run facilities, hospitals, long-term care, acute rehabs, short-term, long-term rehabs. You've run these dudes on skeleton crews all these years. You think that's normal. And that's sad because it's really not normal. We just got used to it as a profession because we were kind of selfish here in the 90s and the 2000s and the 2010s where, okay, so we kind of hold back and keep some of these people out of here. It's more overtime for me. Right? I mean, I'm guilty. Did the same thing. It was part of the job. I mean, it's part of what you did. It's how you did it. But when you talk about the end of this year, you got 500,000 nurses leaving bedside. Where are they going to sell insurance? Are they going to work at Hobby Lobby, Chick-fil-A, McDonald's? Jesus. And you can go greet a door at Walmart for 18 in some cities. And who's to blame? It's these administrators to blame. It's these CEOs. It's these vice presidents. Now, not all buildings are bad. Not all of them. Probably 4 or 5% of them aren't bad. The other buildings aren't bad, but the politics suck. And that's just how it is. Politics suck everywhere, but they really suck in the hospital care and long-term nursing care. And I'm sure politics and hemodialysis and all the adjunctive care centers, as they calling them now, I'm sure the politics suck everywhere. I'm sure staffing's not that bad. It's not that bad in a clinic, except when you've got 90 people in the walk-in clinic, and there ain't 2 of you or 3 of you. That's horrible. That's horrid. People ain't getting care. They get in a doctor walk in and say, they got the sniffles, give them some Zyrtec, send them out the door. Tell them to go get some Claritin, send them out the door. Okay, that's fine. But stuff gets missed, and we've noticed that a lot in the last 6 months. I've lived it. we're in the middle of a pandemic. Everybody's focused on that, and stuff got missed. Now, that's a personal experience. My wife passed away. Cancer wasn't caught. She went back in February last year, had a chest x-ray. The line and markers were all there then. They just didn't follow through with it because they were worried about the next COVID case coming through the door. Not something I'm glad or proud of, but, you know, I mean, you've seen the shirt with the smiley face on it. It's the same shirt. What's his name was running through the desert in. Happens. That's the Navajo word for it. So if any of my Navajo people out there, send me a likes and subscribe to my YouTube page. So I mean, it's getting to be bad. The stuff I've done this past 2 years, I'm not proud of. The very idea to think that we can reuse PPE tells me one of two things. A, it was true. We didn't have anything replenished to use. And it fell to the wayside. Or B, we've known all these years it wasn't going to matter in a case like this. A repeat of the Spanish flu from 1918. You're going to have multiple variants in a virus. And that's just going to happen. The problem is, how are you going to have multiple nurses coming back? I mean, considering all nationwide, nursing homes only graduate about 188,000 nurses a year. And only out of that, only about half of them stay for the first 2 years. So you're actually generally putting out 90,000 nurses every year. 500,000's quitting in 2 years. There'll be more to follow because there's people my age that can retire. They don't have to work. They're working to have something to do. That's what I'm doing. I'm working to have something to do, keep my little bills paid up. That's all I'm doing. I'm working a full-time job, work 2 days a week. If that. I think I worked 1 day last week. Maybe 2. I don't know how else to say it. The shortage ain't over. This shortage is just beginning. This is one of those shortages where people are going to die waiting for beds because there's not enough nurses to take the patients. There's not enough nurses to cover the acute side of ER when the hospital beds are full, when the wings are full. And you think you're going to get nurses in the building and you're already having to beg us to come from other states to work for you. And you think shutting the pay down is going to help you out. We're not worried about your bottom line. We're worried about our bottom line. And the sooner y'all realize that, the better off all you facilities will be. Nurses don't quit jobs. Generally, nurses are nomads. You go from job to job, pay to pay. That's how it works. I've been doing it all my life. I'll stay somewhere 4 or 5 years, 2 or 3 years. Then I'm pretty much done. The politics get to be too much, you move on. Some people don't last a day. Some people don't last 45 minutes. I had a nurse that came in, took report, 7 o'clock, 7:30. She said, "Account with me, I can't stay." So, okay, I was here anyway. So, I mean, 30 minutes because they see from the start what it's going to be. You can't determine people's response to everything, but this we knew. And what's going on now? What are you doing now? Nothing. I've not seen anybody come up with a plan to fix it. All I see is hospital companies suing nurses. And now the ACHA is getting behind cutting these rates. Well, let's get the Federal Trade Commission involved. All this is documented everywhere. You can go to that article from November. You can YouTube it. I mean, you can Google search it and find it. It's readily available. If they put this in place, I was worried about the uh, facility suing the nurses to stay. I knew it probably wasn't going to hold water because you can't disdain the freedom of choice. It don't matter how short it is. If another hospital can provide the same service and they're within a reasonable amount of time, that's not Theta Care's problem. Ascension already knew this, but it set the precedent. States will try anything they can. Eventually, you'll get a liberal enough judge that you'll get what you want, or you'll get a conservative enough judge, you'll get what you want. The problem you're running into with this is cap our pay. Cap it. What I'm hearing in the rumblings I'm hearing now is that there's a national nurses union coming. Whether they're in the compact or not ain't got crap to do with it. Y'all have become like the Emperor of Japan, I think. You're not realizing what you're doing. But nurses generally try to keep quiet. And we try to just do. And we don't try to rock the boat too much. I mean, we'll speak up. Some of us speak up on behalf of our residents and our patients all the time. But what you're seeing now and what you can't deal with is we're actually standing up for each other. Something has not happened much in this field. It happened during H1N1, that pandemic, somewhat. It happened in 93, 94. And the first one I was ever involved in, where the flu shot didn't cover crap and everybody was sick with it, laying the stretchers in the hallway. And that little community hospital I grew up in, it was bad. It was bad then, but I lived through it and, went on and kept a career and did it. But now I wouldn't blame nurses for walking right now over this BS. You got kids that go to school, man, thinking they're going to make them some money. And then here you come with, let's cap the RNs at $58 with a $90 overtime. And let's cap the LPNs at $30 an hour with $60 in overtime. Well, you got to at least be time and a half. You want to cap me out? Then you're going to cap me what I'm worth. And you don't know what I'm worth. I know what I'm worth, and I'm not settling for less than I'm worth. I've had facilities call me now. I contract independently. I've got facilities call me all the time. I don't ever have the same rates hardly, but some facilities, I keep the same rate because I know what I'm worth. Some facilities will talk to me and say, well, can you please just come help us? And can you just not charge? Well, sure. Do you need me that bad? Do you need me to adjust my rate? I'll adjust my rate for you. I will help you out the best I can. But generally, nurses don't do that. I'm an exception to the rule because I'm an independent contractor and I don't like to travel far from home. So if it's going to save me an hour driving to 45-minute job and an hour driving, then I'm going to cut my hour. And then I'm not going to be as far from home, so it don't cost me as much to go. But if I'm going more than an hour and a half away from the house to work, then yeah, I'm going to be making me some money. That's what it's about. That's what it's about right now. And that's a problem you have. You're not prepared for what was coming. And now you've got it. Now you've got it. And you can't deal with it. Because you've got a board of directors that's used to having money at the end of every year. And your little bonus check's coming at the end of every year. And we know that's coming to an end. Otherwise, they would never be all of this talk about capping nurses' pay. Because I'm going to tell you something, CEOs, administrators, directors, assistant directors, nonprofits, because we all know the rule about nonprofits. As long as you can show where you're putting it back in your building, it's not considered profit. But it's more money involved there. Um, we all know how it works. And all this video here is I'm just telling you now, go ahead and run all the rest of the nurses off from your building. You'll be closing because you won't have the nurses to fill the beds you got. But it's got to save us money. Okay. It's got to save you money. How you going to do that? Last time I checked, you can't run a nursing home without nurses. You can't run a hospital without nurses. You got to have them. And these states with these patient ratios, which is the greatest thing in the world, in my opinion, but y'all even throwing those nurses under the bus, changing their ratios. Now, what's going to happen? Who you going to put that when something bad happens? Oh, that's the nurse's fault. He knew very well what he had. If he couldn't handle it, he should have told the house supervisor. Well, what if we did? We can't record because y'all got that conveniently covered that y'all can record us, but we can't record y'all. Y'all filed that under a HIPAA violation. That's how you manipulate everything around, just like you're trying to get to control these nurses' pay through the FTC. Go for it. Run the rest of us off. Don't nobody care what you do. We know that there's 10 million jobs out there. And when we get enough, we will go to one of them. I've even checked in the Hobby Lobby at $18.50 an hour. Yeah, I go sell me some pretty flowers and some paint for somebody for $18 an hour if I don't have to take it home, worry about it, and worry about which prima donna nurse is following me trying to find something wrong because they think that's what nursing is when they've missed the point. You need to get on board and quit trying to get each other in trouble. You know, I just let the chips fall where they may. I don't care. People that know me know I'm all about my resident and my patient. And if it really ain't about that, I will cut up with you and carry on with you. But it's all about the people I'm taking care of. And if they're getting mistreated because of your stupidity, then I'm gonna call you out on it. I filtered gone. I lost that years and years ago. I don't care if you get your feelings hurt. To you administrators and all that, you got the power to hire and fire, but what you doing? You trading the good ones for the bad ones. You're letting the good ones get away and keeping the bad ones. If you would have years ago got rid of the bad ones to hire the good ones, you probably wouldn't have the shortages you got now. Another thing I've noticed is you don't want to raise your rates. As an independent contractor, I get to see what your max rate's going to be. I see how much the company I go through makes, and I see how much I make out of that. A lot of these nurses, travel nurses, I don't know if y'all know what's going on, but I'm going to tell y'all something. The smart nurses that are out there, we all have our own LLCs. We've already got all of our paperwork together. And we can undercut these companies that we're going through, but it's just cheaper and easier to go through these companies. But there are nurses out there that's doing their own agency stuff. They've got their own LLC, and they're keeping 100% of the profit. Now, you talking about capping. I don't know how many of nurses of those there are, but I know how many I work with that have them. One sitting on the other side of the camera's got one. I don't use it yet, but I will. I mean, if you think RNs, I love y'all. Don't get me wrong what I'm about to say, but y'all know it's the truth too. The hospital work is seasonal. Long-term care work never ends. There's always going to be nursing homes, and they generally don't use RNs. But since I know how much a Med A patient is, if I go in, When I go in and the facility calls me, the first question out of my mouth is, how many Med A patients do you have on census? Average for the last month. Because then I can judge how much money they're making. So I'll know what to charge. Because I know what the rates are. I mean, once you start adding these comorbidities in and you start adding nursing on top of therapies, on top of dietitians, and you start adding everything they require that runs their pay rates up, and you can get a basic number from CMS anyway for what it was 3 months ago, you can pretty much make the judgment. And since they made everybody a Med A during COVID, I know what the daily rate is. You can get $750 a day per resident for 20 days solid at 100% reimbursement rate. So if you're averaging 40 people a month, that means you're averaging about 16, 17 a day at $700 a day times 28. And then you can do your yearly projections from that. So yeah, we know. I tell everybody that goes and does long-term care, this is how you determine your pay rate. I've met nurses that still making $17 an hour. $17 an hour. I hadn't made $17 an hour since 2002. I can tell you the first job I got at 20 bucks an hour was in a prison. And I hadn't looked back. I've taken cuts here and there just so I could have the time at home. But I've spent most of my time traveling the country. That's what all these nurses are doing now. This ain't nothing new. This is what's real. And every nurse that's watching this, I say I've got 5 live on Facebook. I've got 7 or 8 on my YouTube page. I get mine in replays. I get all of my money from YouTube and replays. Here's a simple fact. To all you conglomerate owners, government officials, CMS, you're never going to control a human being. And you sure ain't going to control a nurse. Because this is how it works. Nursing, people that are in nursing, and I'm talking about true bedside nursing. I'm talking about CNAs and LPNs and RNs, PCAs, whatever you want to call yourselves now. CNAs, they were just NAs when I started. Whatever you, patient care technician, I think is a big word now. So gets that stigma but you ain't raised the rates. And a CNA in long-term care is worth their weight in gold. You want me to tell you how to get your staff up in a nursing home? I can tell you right now. It's called the 20-30-40 rule. 20-30-40 rule. You run your CNAs up to $20 an hour, your LPNs at $30 an hour, and your RNs at $40 an hour. That's the base rates. I'm not talking about what you're going to give them extra for their years of experience and what you're going to give them extra for their shift differentials. Because if you think just running them up, that's just the base. We know what the base is. We're trying to add to it. How you going to help us? You'll be beating people out of the door is what you'll be doing, because they'll be coming in droves to work for you. Then you can have the pick of the crop. But you don't want to do that because, that's too much money to pay. Well, guess what? RN staffing says you only got to have an RN as supervisor for 8 hours out of the day. That's one RN for 60 beds. If you got 120 beds, 2 RN supervisors. Come on. Hey, look out. Quit trying to count your administrative staff as your floor staff. Get you 2 supervisors and get you 1 nurse per 30 and go for it. Go for it. Make sure you got enough help for all of them. You'll have a waiting list for employees, residents, and you'll get the cream of the crop to choose from. But you don't want to do that because that bonus money. You CEOs make a ton in bonus, don't you? You know how I know? I've been there. I watched it. I almost ended up in a divorce over it, but I've watched it. There's nothing ever good going to come out of this. Nurses are going to win. You just hadn't realized that yet. You will. You definitely will when you got to talk your government, state governments, into going back in. It's like, hey, we can't cap these rates. We cannot do it. We can't. Go for it. I say cap them. I say watch what happens to you. You think 500,000 people will quit? So not that ain't nothing. 500,000, that's nothing. You got to get them to come back. You can't do that without money. It's what you get. We have used your skeletal staffing to learn. We have used your BS and all of your tricks of the trade and all of that to learn. Go on, Chance. And we've learned it, and we learned it better than you. We've watched it happen. We've watched you run good nurses off. We've watched you take people that complain, take pictures and send them to you. Oh, he's sitting at the desk, but you don't know what was going on before or after that. I watched a nurse get fired 2 weeks ago because the CNA took a picture, because the CNA was worried about that nurse ain't doing as much as I am. See, in medicine, in nursing, we have to fix our own problems first, but we've kind of got that under control now. It took March the 9th, 2 years ago, to fix our problem. I don't get worse. And you facilities, y'all are to blame. You've got us run by the rule of working for too little for too long with not enough and have to build stuff to get by. To now, you're going to pay for that. You're going to pay for that experience. And then the CDC comes along and says, well, nurses don't have to take off. They don't have to quarantine really 3 days. If they're asymptomatic, they can go back to work. Well, viruses still have a time frame for incubation. And they still got so many days you're going to have. And you still some of us in there, and we may not even know. Oh, we're going to test you because you might have been around somebody. Oh, well, I was near my cousin and sent him home. Well, you know, and I love these people that go in and swab their nose one time and run out, but I never see them do a second test to make sure it's not a false positive. I tested positive in one slide, and then we did 9 more after that one day. And I was negative the other 9 times. So, yeah, you can get a false positive, or it was just a fleck in your nose hair. Better be swabbing them mouths. If you're going to get it, swab the back of that throat where the mutation tubes be dropping down below the epiglottis. And then run that on your card. If you got COVID, that's where you're going to find it. Of course, you're going to find it in the nose hairs because that's a filter. I've never heard of such crap like that. That's the government's way of keeping the numbers up, by the way. They'll probably get my ban on YouTube, but that's fine. I got on here because I hadn't done one in a while, but I kind of was going to let this nursing issue up north play out with the labor rules between Theta Care and Ascension hospitals. I didn't figure it was going to hold water, but it was kind of funny that they kind of covered it on the news, but then all the Chiefs fans started donating to a hospital, but the word hospital was still in the news. So that's what they followed. And congratulations to the teams that won today. Yay, I guess, for the people that wanted the Bengals and the Rams to win. If your team lost, sorry. My team lost today. It sucks, but it is what it is. So the news media won't cover it. Nurses don't really, we read that much, but nurses don't want to deal with nursing. That's all I know. I do the nursing all the time. I read about it. I keep up with it. Anything that's going to affect my job, I pay attention to. Um, what you got to understand is um, it's all coming to a head. It's festered long enough now. I've had some mighty fine administrators that didn't really worry about money so much. They're more worried about the care of the residents. But all those people started to retire, and we brought in people that were money hungry, worried about the bottom line and the end of the year bonus, because these corporations set these bonuses so high. They'll cut the staff and they'll cut the care of the residents to get that bonus every year. I don't know, if I was them, I would too. I've done it. I made some bonus money out west. I ain't gonna lie, but my residents didn't suffer for it. As a matter of fact, most of the time I'd buy my residents a can of soda or a candy bar or whatever when I was making it from paycheck to paycheck. I was still trying to do the best for them as I could do. But if you corporations think y'all are going to win, you're not. There's no way for you to. As the nursing numbers grow smaller, our checkbooks will grow bigger, and your expenditures will too. And if not, then the American public's got a right to stand up and say we're not going to that facility, and let the law of economics take over and take care of the problem. That's where we go to. That's where it ends up happening, and that's what's going to happen. Nurses will unite. I'm already seeing the rumbling start in those few little groups I'm in on Facebook. I'm watching it happen in front of my very eyes. I didn't think I ever would, but it's happening. I've got tons of friends that are travelers now. I'm just a per diem traveler. I just go fill in a shift here or there because I worked years to get to this point, and I'm going to kind of enjoy myself now. I was just going to leave you with that. Once again, I let everybody know. I go live on Facebook when I get my other channels set up, my other sites, Getter. I'll probably start a Signal site where I'm going to open it up just for the nurses. I'm going to send it to the nurses group where they can come in and have a forum inside of my Signal group. Auxiliary healthcare workers. I mean, to me, if they step foot inside the border of a hospital, they housekeepers, dietary workers, grounds crew, maintenance, air conditioning crew, people that fix the alarm, everybody ought to be getting money right now. I'll give up some money if I know you're going to give me a CNA to come in and work too. I give up $4 or $5 an hour for that. As long as everybody else gives it up, and they will. They will. We know what we got to have to survive. I talked to some nurses that talked about how first time in their career, they had made over 6 figures. I said, well, we used to could do that. I used to do that. You can do it, but you're never at home. Now you don't have. Now you can work 3 or 4 days a week. I say a lot of these contracts 48 and 60. To me, you don't make no money at 60. You make all your money at 48. Maybe 52, but not 60. And at 60, you're going to pay taxes. You're going to pay a lot of them. And I've got stuff to prove that. I'll be posting later. These contract folks are also, be on the lookout, guys, because they're giving you one title over here, and the contracts are nothing like that. And these staging contracts, I don't know what that's about. I've never heard of it. Sounds fishy to me. Oh, you stay here in this building and we'll send you where we need you. Well, that's called per diem. We've got those. That's called shift key. That's called clipboard. There's plenty of companies to do that. I don't know what some of y'all's LLC names are. I'm sure I'll get a list full of them. it's about to be bad news at this point. I think that the time is coming that the union, National Nursing Union, will come to pass in the next 6 months. If these states pass the caps on these hourly nurses rates, shortage ain't going to be nothing like it is in those states. And everybody out there needs to be worried. This is might be a plan for the government to take over healthcare completely, because they can't control if you're not a robot, they can't control you. I don't. I got my eyes open the last year to a lot of things I didn't plan to get my eyes open to, but it happened, and I did it. And yeah, Carnes. I just want people knowing that it's coming. What's coming? I'll try to get back on a regular schedule here on this. This thing is going to blow up every day. People are going to start tickling back in the news media, writing articles, doing opinions. I'm not. I'm just going to get on here and talk. If it turns out that the shortage is going to be way worse, thank you, Winnie. I appreciate you. It's going to be a lot worse. Now I'm starting to see the messages and all the stuff's popping up everywhere. So, it's coming. I'm not one to think the nurses are the only ones. They're not. It takes medical people understand how the pyramid works. The office people don't understand where they come in on that. But, they should be taken care of last. Your bottom floor, your foundation, all your ancillary staff, that's who you take care of first. Then you take care of nurses. And then you take care of your administration. Not the other way around. Because we really don't care about the administration. We don't. That's why a lot of us work nights. I've been on here for 50 minutes. I know y'all can't believe I can talk that long. I know that. I could probably go 2 hours. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, find you a nursing group or medical group that's in your field. There's plenty out there. I'm on some CNA sites because the CNAs add me to it just so they can ask me a question and not get the answer they were looking for. But they get the answers. That's not what they're actually looking for. It's coming a day where those of us that actually studied economics when we were in high school understand how all this works. And I'll explain it to everybody. But what you're saying is called supply and demand issue. There ain't no supply and the demand is high. And then you're going to cut the rate on it. It ain't going to fare well. It's just not. I don't know how to say it other than to just say it. Many of y'all know I lost my wife this past year. And I watched it, and I know her diagnosis got missed because of COVID. Which was fine. I mean, they tried to even give her COVID when she passed away. I mean, it was insane, but I get it. Everybody, that's just what they were told to do, and everybody did it. what's it going to be now? How's the state representatives going to answer the question if they pass these rules in these governments? Because if one state does it, the rest of them will do it. If one state does it and it's upheld by the Constitution, I mean, look at the mandate. OSHA can't enforce it, but CMS can. So let's run them off that way. Let's run them off another way. Let's completely destroy this field so we can put ourselves in charge of it. And because the government, we can run it better. oh, oh my God. They've done such a wonderful job controlling this thing. I don't know if they'll ever be able to get it fixed unless we step up and do it ourselves. And we're going to have money. And that's just how it is. But I hope everybody has a good rest of the week. I hope everybody stays safe. We've got a winter storm coming in the middle of the week. They're talking anywhere from 5 to 8 inches of snow here. But the last time they said anywhere from 5 to 8 inches of snow, we ended up with 17 inches of snow. So I'm not looking forward to that at all. But everybody stay good. Be good to each other. Take care of each other. To all my friends out there, I love y'all. I miss working with a bunch of y'all. I see a bunch of my friends from the Navajo Nation on my live. I miss y'all. Somebody just asked me, do I think the mask work in blocking COVID or causing lung fungus? I didn't say that directly. That's the indirect answer. They might stop a couple of organisms getting into your body. Here's all I'm going to say about it. We have never done this before. I've been doing this since 93. We wore face masks in 93 and 94 because we already knew that the flu virus wasn't covered by the flu shots. It was the middle of February. The season ended April the 1st. People put on masks. You used to have the option. If you didn't get the mandatory flu shot, you had to wear a mask. Do they work? Maybe a little bit. But with as small an organism as this is, no, they don't. But they will give you a lung fungus. Warm, moist air is all the fungus needs to grow in a spore. And if you covering your mask face up like this and it's got a hole on the side, that's a warm, moist environment right there. And all it needs is one spore to have you a good old fungus in your lungs. And Araxis, which is the IV treatment for that, it runs $14,000 to $18,000 per treatment because it's a type of chemo to get rid of it. And it helps with those liver funguses too. But yeah, I mean, there's stuff. And I'm not even bringing up the other words because I'm not on Spotify. But if I say the words that's been used, then I might get blocked everywhere else. But yeah, IVM is some good initials if you're going to the doctor. I would ask about Pfizer's pill if you can find them. These tests aren't accurate. These masks might do something. More evidence out there that they don't. It's hard to say. If it makes you feel better, personally, do you, boo? Do you? Just take care of yourselves. I will tell you that they got all the comorbidities wrong. And the absolute number one thing for the comorbidities is being overweight. Being overweight causes you more trouble with COVID because you don't get the lung expansion you need. That's how that works. I miss you too, darling. That's how it works. I'll be back probably Thursday. We'll see. I don't know if I'm scheduled Thursday or not. If it snows, I'll be back because I won't be able to get down the mountain from up here because I've got a 6% incline on this side of the house and I've got a 4% incline on this side of the house, or decline going downhill. So I'll be here. You y'all take care of each other. Share my stuff. Go to Facebook, share the live video when it's available in about 20 minutes. Go to my YouTube page, share it everywhere you can. Then get me likes and subscribes. I'll give you all my other platforms when I get them posted. Y'all take care. This has been David. I've been doing another Ridge Runner report. So YouTube, see y'all in a couple of days. And Facebook, I will see